Welcome to the next episode of Towards New Futures, a series of shows presented by ActionAid Association and NewsX, where we discuss with policymakers, change makers, and grassroots workers on how we can create a post-COVID reset which provides all of us with hope and much needed of hope these days. In this episode, we engage on the need to protect children and their childhood. A United Nations policy brief holds that though children are not the face of the pandemic, they are at the risk of being the biggest victims. March 25th, 2020 was the last day that 321 million school children went to school in India and education became virtual. Students and parents know that online learning is no substitute for the immersive experience of school or college education. With mobile internet reaching only 34% of the population, bulk of children from deprived backgrounds, even this tenuous links to schooling is beyond their reach. For out-of-school children, the risk of child labor, child marriage, and child trafficking is also increasing significantly. We are privileged today to have grassroots-based activists who will tell us how they have helped keeping children connected with play, education, and learning in the toughest of times. We have activists who will tell us about the great achievements that are possible when communities are engaged with children's education and protecting children against labor and early marriage. Finally, we will have experts speak about the need to strengthen the right to education. It's my pleasure to introduce the panelists we have with us today. Ananya Chakrabarti is a national award-winning documentary filmmaker and a journalist who has specialized in trafficking and other gender issues. She currently heads the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Soledad Herrero is Chief of Child Protection at UNICEF India. Thank you for joining us. Dipali Sharma is a development worker with over 20 years of experience in the social sector. She currently works as a director, organizational effectiveness in ActionAid Association. Asha Mishra, organizing secretary of the Bharat Gyan Vigyan Samiti, and an organization that seeks to change society with education and science. Ritvik Patra is an education specialist at UNICEF working from Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. Khalid Chaudhary is Associate Director, ActionAid Association, leading the organization's work in Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand and leading child rights work across the organization. Ghasiram Panda is the National Manager of the Ending Child Marriage Program of ActionAid Association. And Sudhata Kuntia is the National Team Lead, Public Education and Child Rights at ActionAid Association. Nadia Sheikh is based in Srinagar and leads ActionAid Association's work in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And of course, let us start the discussion by learning about the impact of locality and village-based education centers in the lives of children in conflict and also during the time of COVID. Nadia ji, if you can hear me.
Yes, absolutely.
Please tell us about the impact of child-friendly spaces in Srinagar. I understand at one time, ActionAid Association was engaging in 10,000 children in 68 centers across 5 districts. Please elaborate on that.
Thanks for giving me a chance. We know that there are not many safe spaces of socialization and growth for children in Kashmir, where they can spend time, engage in various play activities and learn in playful method. Also, somehow the question of children get always missed whenever we talk about any developmental initiative, while children in Kashmir require the most care. That's precisely what the core impact of our CFSs was. We gave these children safe spaces, secure spaces across 5 districts, which were purely community-based under the guidance of a trained frontline worker, which we called as community animator or volunteers. It proved to be a space where they could come together, be listened to, form meaningful relationships among themselves, and get an opportunity to showcase their talents without any discrimination and threat of being neglected. A space for peer learning and inclusion was the second impact shown by the CFSs. Inclusion remained one of the key highlights of the programs by reaching to the most vulnerable and marginalized sections of society, likewise catering to the needs of children from SC communities, ST communities, other tribes, and children with special needs and care. A space for recreation and enhanced sports skills was the third key attraction for children to come together and enjoy their livelihood, enjoy their childhood the way they deserved it to be. However, CFS is also proved to be a space for enhancing different essential life skills with number of activities and capacity building trainings. The outcomes have been instrumental, having enhanced the capacity of children and youth to understand their lives, deal with the challenges, building the coping mechanism for being resilient to vulnerabilities, and take leaderships in their lives. Another great impact of CFSs was extended towards the strengthening of education scenario by carrying out the Education for All campaign, which was led by ActionAid to reach to the unreachable children. A replicate of community-based CFS were run within the government and private schools, wherein children as well as teachers were engaged in 2-hour session every week in a play-way learning method. Furthermore, there were continuous advocacy-related work done pertaining to the fulfillment of needs of children with the relevant stakeholders from every sector. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Nadia ji, also tell us what do you see the role of such spaces across the country? Right now, we are talking specifically pertaining to Srinagar, but the role of similar spaces across the country, how is that going to be conducive?
Yeah. Right now, humanitarian crises present major threats to the well-being of children. These threats include risk of violence, abduction, abuse, emotional distress, and more oftenly disruption of development on a large. If we talk about the core aims of CFS programming, they are typically threefold. First, CFS serves as a mechanism for protecting children from abuse, exploitation, and violence by providing them a safe environment following displacement or local disruption. Second, CFSs seek to promote children's psychosocial well-being and the resources available to them through structured activities organized by the local facilitators. Third, CFSs generally aim to strengthen local mechanisms for support, protection, and care for children by serving as a focal point for engaging with parents and mobilizing other community resources, including both non-governmental providers as well as relevant and religious associations. So the role of CFSs arise here across the country in the context of conflict as well as humanitarian crisis. Child-friendly spaces can provide a safe space for learning, socialization, and promote psychosocial well-being among children at times of any crisis faced, like as we are facing right now, the COVID crisis. Also cater to the developmental needs of children during the times wherein everything remains shut, like schools, institutions, and other areas wherein child is engaged. As this is the setup which lies within their own communities and their own niches, which prove to be easily manageable with a minimal rush of gatherings, with a minimal rush of children at one place of time, thereby posing a very less threat and vulnerability to children. And it could be structured in many innovative spaces to be utilized by children in accordance to the current situation in the area, whatever the current situation of area will be. However, while CFSs are not a comprehensive answer, I can say, but they can be used as an important tool as a transitional structure that serves as a bridge to early recovery and long-term support for vulnerable children. We can attain this by taking into confidence the important stakeholders such as local teachers, school administrators, parents, community leaders, which could be taken for the planning process, thereby strengthening the relationship between FS, its innovative operation during any crisis times, thereby catering to the improvement of learning.
Okay. All right. Kavita Rana also joins us.
Needs of
Right. Kavita Rana also joins us. She's based in Uttar Pradesh and leads ActionAid Association's work of organizing Mohalla Pathshala in the state. कविता जी नमस्कार, हमारे साथ बातचीत करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आप म्यूटेड हैं, सबसे पहले अपने आप को अनम्यूट कीजिए, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ पाएगी. सवाल मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूं कविता जी, ये मोहल्ला जो पाठशाला है, इन्होंने क्या किरदार निभाया है चिल्ड्रन को और उनकी पढ़ाई को, उनकी एजुकेशन को लिंक करने में कोविड-19 के प्रकोप के दौरान? कविता जी आप बताइए.
जी हेलो सर, नमस्ते सर.
नमस्ते
जी, मेरा नाम कविता है और मैं ActionAid की कार्यकर्ता हूँ.
जी
तो जैसे कि हम सभी जानते हैं कि भाई लॉकडाउन में कितना प्रभाव पड़ा है हम सबके रोजगार पे भी, और सबसे ज्यादा जो है बच्चों की एजुकेशन को लेकर के है। तो जिन गांव में हम जाते थे, हमने जब उनमें शुरुआत की लॉकडाउन के टाइम में, स्कूल भी बंद हो गए थे, तो बच्चों की पढ़ाई जो थी वो एकदम से रुक गई। तो फिर हम गांव में गए, बच्चों की ऑनलाइन क्लासें हमने चलवाई, बहुत प्रयास किया उसके चलने के लिए। पर जब गांव में हमें जाके पता चला कि गांव में समस्या ये है कि जो बच्चे स्कूल में जाते हैं उनके पास कोई ऐसा बड़ा फोन नहीं था कि जिससे वे ऑनलाइन पढ़ाई कर सके।
जी
तो हमने इस चीज को वो करके एक शुरुआत की है गांव से, पलड़ा गांव से, कि हम मोहल्ला क्लास चलाए वहां पे। तो हमने जब क्लास चलाई तो वहां पे शुरुआत में 4-5 बच्चे आए हमारे पास में। फिर हमने उसको लेकर के उसको जागरूकता बढ़ाने के लिए गांव के प्रधान, आंगनबाड़ी, आशा और इन सब से गांव गांव में जाकर के अभियान के माध्यम से एक जागरूकता करी, और उसमें कुछ दिन बाद में जो बच्चों की संख्या थी वो बढ़ गई। फिर उसका रिजल्ट जब हमें अच्छा लगा कि हाँ भाई हमारी जो हमने काम शुरुआत की वो अच्छी हुई, तो हमने
जी
धीरे धीरे एक गांव से वो 2 गांव, 3 गांव, 4 गांव में इस तरीके से हमने जो संख्या थी हमारी वो बढ़ गई।
जी
फिर धीरे धीरे हमारी जो बात थी वो ब्लॉक तक आई, ब्लॉक से मीडिया तक पहुंची। फिर जब हमारा जो ये था कि एक ब्लॉक से किस तरीके से हमारा जो प्रयास वो और दूसरे गांव में भी जाने लगा, जो और ब्लॉकों में भी, तो फिर इस तरीके से जो हमारी प्रक्रिया थी पूरी वो पूरे मुजफ्फरनगर में फैल गई।
जी
फिर हमारी जब जो हमारी जो वो थी, हमारे जो मोहल्ला क्लास की जानकारी थी वो अधिकारियों तक भी हमारी पहुंची। तो अधिकारियों ने जब वीडियो साहब ने, ये बीएसए साहब ने उनको हमारे काम को देखते हुए उनकी प्रशंसा की, और उन्होंने कहा कि हम आपके जो प्रेरक हैं उनके साथ में एक मीटिंग करना चाहते हैं। तो उन्होंने उनके साथ मीटिंग की, उन्होंने अपने सभी प्रेरकों ने अपना काम बताया कि किस तरीके से हम गांव गांव में जा करके बच्चों को, माँ बापों को समझाया, किस तरीके से बच्चों को इकट्ठा करके हम मुफ्त में बच्चों को शिक्षा पढ़ा रहे हैं। तो उस काम से बीएसओ साहब हमारे बहुत खुश हुए, और उन्होंने उन प्रेरकों को सम्मानित भी किया, और साथ में ये भी कहा कि हम इस जिले के साथ साथ में और जिले में भी कोशिश करेंगे या प्रयास करेंगे कि ये ऐसी जो पाठशालाएं मुजफ्फरनगर में चल रही हैं वो और जिलों में भी चले। तो उसके हमारे जो पाठशाला, जो मोहल्ला पाठशाला चल रही है, हमारी जो पाठशाला को देख करके मुजफ्फरनगर, उसमें सहारनपुर में और शामली जिले में, 2 जिले में भी
जी,
चल रही है।
कविता जी, मेरा अगला सवाल यही होने वाला था
जी
कि इस मॉडल को देखकर, मोहल्ला पाठशाला के मॉडल को देखकर यूपी सरकार ने भी इसकी काफी सराहना की है,
जी
और ये भी पता लगा है कि ये मॉडल को हो सकता है ये राज्य पूरे स्टेट में अपनाए और फॉलो करे।
जी
इसके बारे में कुछ बताइए।
जी, हमारा प्रयास यही है कि जो ये जो हमारी जो संख्या है वो किस तरीके से हम उसे जागरूकता के माध्यम से या किसी अभियान के माध्यम से किस तरह से हम पूरे राज्य में फैला सकते हैं। हमारी पूरी कोशिश यही है कि जो भी हमारा वो होगा, चाहे हम अधिकारियों के पास जाके, चाहे प्रधान के, किसी के भी हमें सपोर्ट से वो मिले, तो हम कोशिश करेंगे कि यही कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा हमारे पूरे मुजफ्फरनगर उसमें राज्य में ये हमारी पाठशाला चले।
जी जी बिल्कुल। Well, folks, now we're going to talk about the community-based structures of child protection and strengthening public education as well. Let us, in fact, endeavor to learn more about the tremendous achievements of efforts to mobilize communities to strengthen processes and structure for protection of children against labor and early marriage as well, and in ensuring out of school children get back to school and get quality education in government schools, and that has been one of the biggest challenges. Ananya Chakravarti, the West Bengal Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, has done extensive research on how social and economic breakdown increases the risk of children to trafficking and labor. How has COVID-19 precipitated this danger? Ananya, please unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this program. We have been struggling. It has been the biggest challenge of the civilization since I was born, the last 1.5 years because of COVID. And as you rightly said in the beginning, pointed out that the children are the biggest sufferers of this challenging situation. One of the things that I would like to mention to what Nadia Habib said is that it is true that children might think of safe spaces, but when we think about safe spaces, we think about the home and the family. But we know that most of the POCSO cases happen within the family, And during the COVID situation, domestic violence has really, really gone up. And children have been suffering because of that, because they are seeing it happen in front of their eyes, and it's really affecting them. So we have been conducting different kinds of studies. Last year, we even though it was online, so which means we were only able to reach a fraction of children, and we could not reach out to the other side of the digital divide, which is a real pity. But at least we could reach out to some children. So we tried to engage with them creatively, asking them to send us their poems, their paintings, their, which we put up on our website and on our Facebook page to encourage them. Where we would ask them to tell us about how they are coping with COVID, or what do they think about the situation, and so on and so forth. And there were many other things that we were trying to do, including a community radio project. We started a community radio project in collaboration with Jadavpur University, which already had a community radio. So we, through community radio, whereby we can reach up to 10-kilometer radius from Jadavpur University in Calcutta, we started these classes, online classes, radio classes, audio classes, called Sahaj Path. Sahaj Path is an elementary education school book by Rabindranath Tagore. So we started that, and that proved to be immensely successful. So we were basically reaching out to children in street situations, and we were also reaching out to children in the slums, or the lower middle class families who did not have access to the net, or didn't even have a cell phone. So there we replicated part of what Kavita Rana ji has been doing. We started these small mohalla groups in clubs, or in a garage, through NGOs, where they would play out those radio programs, either live, or they could also be played back. And these radio programs are all available on our website. It's copyrighted. Anyone can use them. Of course, they're in Bengali. So this was like a bridge course, and so we were actually awarded because of this. We received the Scotch Award for our efforts during COVID situation, and also because of this radio project. But I really think that this is not enough. I think that there is so much more that needs to be done, because as we know that there was this chairperson of Child Rights Commission, National Child Rights Commission, Shanta Sinha, who had once said that every out-of-school child is a potential child laborer. And I would take it further to say that every out-of-school girl child is a potential child bride.
Okay.
We have seen an exponential rise in child labor and child marriage, and also probably trafficking, which we will get to know once the schools reopen.
Okay, Soledad, UNICEF is working with social organizations in India to build up child protection structures and processes in communities and local administrations across several states. Do let us know some of the achievements, when it comes to this particular effort.
Thank you, Vinet. UNICEF is lucky to work in the child protection area with more than 68 civil society organizations across the different states. And definitely the work of this organization with the communities is at the very much backbone of our programs. As Madam Chakraborty was mentioning, the situation has been extraordinarily difficult in the COVID times, right? But nevertheless, there's been still successful stories and achievements, and we've seen children taking on the roles of teachers. We've seen communities pulling for digital devices, and many other extraordinary stories. I can mention a couple of achievements in the areas that we work closely with ActionAid, which is the child labor program, as well as ending child marriage. We work across 10 states to prevent child labor, and through our work, more than 8,000 children were rescued from child labor last year, and 75,000 families, many of them from migrant communities that we know very well how severely affected were. They were connected with some of the social protection schemes available in the country. One of the key entry points of this work has been developing and strengthening the child protection committees that can work also with some of the grassroots community-based organizations and structures, such as the self-help groups, the Angarwari centers, and many others. In the area of marriage, we work for the development of 144 district plans for ending child marriage and empowerment of adolescent girls. This has been an excellent entry point also for working with the communities, giving girls programs, and also working with parents, because we know that some of the gender stereotypes and bias start at home. So we've reached more than 10 million parents with some of the key messages to really promote the family environments, move from having marriage aspirations for their girls to having empowerment aspirations for the daughters and sisters.
All right. Mr. Khasiram Panda, what changes have you been able to see in community attitudes towards child protection?
Yeah, thank you for actually prioritizing children in this discussion. And what Soledad and Ananya ji both told, that this COVID pandemic has badly affected children, and their all the rights, the right of development, the right of participation, the survival rights, the protection right, all have been affected very badly. So in this context, with the support of the UNICEF and the district administration in 5 different states, we are working to get engaged with the community as well as some of the key stakeholders, both in non-government and government side, like the caste leaders, like the tribal communities leader, the committees at the grassroots level, the child protection committees, the frontline workers, the NGOs who are actually running the child line, all are they have been very supportive in this whole process, and we are trying to trying to actually bridging the gaps in between all these stakeholders, bringing more convergence and coordination. You will be happy to know that earlier it was perceived that it is only the work of the Women and Child Development Department to look after the children issues. But now more than 13 departments, they have come together with the efforts of the district task force and developing a district action plan and rolling out of that district action plan, what Soledad also highlighted. So, so a convergence effort with the support of community and other non-state actors like the Tent House Owners Association, like the Priest and Temple Trust, they have come together actually to address these issues. It is just not only a legal issue, but also a socio-economic and cultural issues. So ending child marriage needs everybody attention, and ActionNet is into that. For last 1.5 years, more than that, we have been engaged with the community, with the frontline workers, and trying to build their capacity so that people should have that trust and faith to give a call wherever there is a child marriage going on. And the system has been also very responsive. And for last 1.5 years, we have been successful in stopping a lot of child marriage, linking them with different education and livelihood programs. So changing their life has been a key component, especially for adolescent. Yeah.
Okay, Soledad, according to you, what is the long-term change that you personally would like to see in terms of child protection in India?
Mm-hmm. Well, India has definitely set the right foundation for an efficient and effective child protection system when it comes to the legal and policy framework. But that is the foundation, right? And now we have to finish building the entire architecture of this system. So perhaps I could mention or prioritize 2 elements that the system, in my view, has to focus on. The first one is to put much more emphasis in prevention. And this is important because the moment that a child enters into the state protection system, it means that the system actually has failed. We fail to prevent trafficking to materialize. We fail from a girl getting married. We fail because of the child has actually dropped in school and has to be rescued from child labor. So much more emphasis in prevention is absolutely critical, not only for the perspective of children's rights, which of course is the primary consideration, but is also much more cost effective. Now, to be able to see that change, there is a couple of things that need to take place. One, very important, and it's actually one of the priorities of the discussion today, is to make sure that the districts and sub-districts structures are put in place. And we need to see a system that is resourced and which has child protection committees and other basic structures to be able to reach those children that are in need and are on the brink of entering into the state protection. The final point is connected to these two issues is we need to make sure that we stop this inertia of institutionalizing those children that are in need. Family and communities are the best framework in which the children can be protected and also can thrive. We need to find every possible solution before a child enters an institution, which should be only considered as a measure of last resort.
Okay, absolutely. Those are good points, Mr. Ritu Patra. Now, UNICEF has been working with organizations like ActionAid Association to strengthen the public education system in the country. Please highlight for us that what has come out of these efforts in the last few months or years.
Thank you, Viniji, for having me in this show. First of all, I would like to address the question you asked to Kavita ji. Government of UP has already recognized Mohalla class as one of the major initiatives in the fourth phase of e-Pathshala guideline that has been issued last month. Mohalla classes is to be conducted everywhere, and thanks to efforts done by Kavita ji and others in many other districts. Actually, 20 districts where Mohalla classes, ActionAid and UNICEF started. So that's one. Second, I would say in respect of COVID, the importance of community mobilization to have quality education in schools, it has increased. It's easy to say that make the communities as partners, take them along with your initiatives, what you are doing for improving quality education or delivering quality education services. But it is easier said than done. Unless until the whole architecture of education department, unless until the school sincerely believe that communities can contribute, it is not possible. And through our partnerships with ActionAid and other organizations, we have proved that communities, if we invest on them, invest time with them, invest on partnerships with them, they can be the most sustainable aspect of having child protection, having quality education, delivering quality education. That's one. The other point, which is not mentioned by many the participants here, the speakers here, they are also in UP and UNICEF UP government as well as UNICEF in UP have taken initiative. That is, whenever we are talking about children, we are mainly referring to 6 to 14 years of age. That's the elementary school age. But there is a 3 to 6 years. To them, we need to provide quality preschool education, quality protection services. There are also a lot of initiatives that have been taken. Say, for example, if I may have 1 minute on this. For example, the UP government and UNICEF came up with a 32-week calendar with more than 450 activities. Those activities are disseminated to the Anganwadi workers who are supposed to visit houses. They are demonstrating those activities to the parents. The parents are conducting those activities. And very much focused on education as well as protection issues. Similarly, in Bada and Chitrapur, UNICEF and government of UP, we are doing responsive parenting through phone calls. 1 minute phone call, calling up parents, and more than 10,000 parents as of today are engaged with this program. Every week, we are making phone calls, telling them how to conduct activities, how to protect the children, how to engage them with educational activities. So that is also very important. So my request here to everyone will be that not only 6 to 14, of course, there are many issues with 6 to 14, but 3 to 6, where we actually, make the children and help them to be ready for lifelong learning. That is also important. So, we need to focus on that. And we, in our partnerships with Accelerate and other organizations, what we have, I'll conclude by saying that we have realized that if we sincerely believe that communities can contribute, then communities can become your partner. And once community is a partner to your efforts, then it is most sustainable. Nadia was talking about CFS. Can CFS happen without the active engagement of Gram Panchayat, Gram Panchayat or SMC member? It cannot happen. It cannot be sustainable. So we need to have such partners on the ground, and we need to believe in such partnerships.
Okay. Mr. Panda, what do you think should happen to ensure that child protection across the country, is something which is taken seriously?
Yeah, like we discussed now, community need to be sensitized and community need to be considered as a partner in protecting the rights of the children. In case of ending child marriage program, across all the state, that has been our efforts. And if we can bring back all the children to the school, school is just not only school is just not a space for learning and sharing, but it is also a safe space for discussing many such issues that children are facing, like the issues of domestic violence and like the forced marriage kind of thing. So bringing back all the children will help them to actually be debar them from being a child labor or being affected in the child marriage situation. So that should be our efforts to extend the scope of right to education up to the age of 18 and build the capacity of the adolescent for their right to take a decision whether they want to marry or when they want to marry, to whom they want to marry. That kind of capacity, that kind of scope, that kind of infrastructure that has to be there, and community need to be and state need to be responsive to such kind of demands.
Right. Khalid Chaudhary, let me come to you now. I want you to share inspiring stories and instances of communities' demonstration of ownership of government schools in their particular areas. How has that been of immense help towards this cause?
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, we have identified more than 6,000 volunteers, and that are basically engaging with school management committees and panchayats. And they are building capacities of local communities, school teachers, school management committees, and that basically that is leading to strengthening governance and functioning of government schools and making government school functional. And that means these community leaders and volunteers and SMC members and panchayat are taking very active role in identifying out of school children, improving enrollment and attendance and transition. So these are the basic concept, these are the basic features of our community mobilization. And ultimately, community, as Ritvik was mentioning about, community, this model is basically, it's all about ownership. Community is taking ownership of in the government school functioning. And they are actively involved in decision making of overall functioning and strengthening overall governance of schools. So that is very much important. If community decides that it is our school, it is for our children, it is for our future, so they basically start taking leadership in functioning of government schools. So that has basically led to a overall functioning of government schools. And we have seen several of examples where communities taking active leadership and basically creating child-friendly spaces in schools, improving school infrastructure, improving enrollment, improving overall governance in the schools. And that has led to basically migration from private schools to government schools. So we have thousands of children who earlier used to study in private schools. Now parents parents are thinking that government school is also providing a good quality education at free of cost. Why not we should send our children to government school? So thousands of children have been enrolled in government schools from private schools. So that is the overall model, and basically that has led basically led to an overall mobilization. And I think during COVID, what Kavita was mentioning, Mohalla classes extremely very good examples where community is taking leadership and these volunteers are taking leadership and continue their learning and education. Yes.
Khalid, also tell us, in terms of what you have done in Uttar Pradesh and the learnings that you have accumulated from Uttar Pradesh, how would you see that? How would you like to see that being replicated, being adhered to across the country of India?
Yes. Whatever we have learned, basically we have learned as a community mobilization is key and strengthening school governance and overall functionality of schools. If this is happening in poorest of the villages in eastern part of Uttar Pradesh or Bundelkhand region, it can be happen across country. So I think it's a very low cost model, very innovative. No, it's not very innovative, but it's very low cost model, and it should be replicated across country to ensure the continuity of learning and ensure the education of children across country.
Right. Mr. Patra, same question for you. What lessons would you want to see replicated across the country? They have worked wonders in some parts, but obviously they need to be tested at that macro level, if you will.
Three things I would say. One is taking example from what we did, ActionAid and UNICEF did during the last wave. That is the first wave. We reached out to all the children who were affected by migration. Thousands of families came back, and they had no clue what to do. So how to reach out to them with learning materials, how to engage them with educational activities, how to protect their concerns. So those were, that is one example where during this period of time, how community volunteers can help. So that is one learning. There are two other things which we have learned. If we talk about the deprived groups, we were talking about only, you said 34% children are having access to internet and they are having online classes, or some of them are fortunate to have online classes and all. But if we talk about the children with disabilities, hardly anything reached out to them. And when we started reaching out to children with disabilities with accessible worksheets and other materials, what we learned that amongst the children with disabilities also, children with total blindness, they were completely out of any initiative, be it TV program, radio program, online classes, WhatsApp messages, or Mohalla classes. They were actually, because in Mohalla classes also the volunteers were not trained or to teach in grade and other things. So they were one of the groups who were totally out of any reach of e-Pathshala or that kind of initiative. So one learning is how do we address the needs of children with disabilities, and among the children with disabilities, how do we reach out to children with total blindness? That is one learning I would like to see how the country responds.
All right. Thank you for that response. And now we're going to talk about strengthening the right to education for children. The Right to Education Act has had far-reaching consequences, and the new economic policy has extended the purview of early and secondary education in our country. However, neither did the RTE and nor has the NEP made the right to education justiciable and something that courts could review. Nor have we moved any closer to the common school system, which had been put on the agenda by the Kothari Commission in 1966. Asha Mishra ji, could you share with us what are the crucial steps that are needed to make the right to education more meaningful for all children?
Thank you. मुझे लगता है कि मेरे साथी पहले ही बता चुके हैं. देखिए, इतने साल हो गया, लेकिन अभी राइट टू एजुकेशन कानून जो है वो ठीक से इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हो पाया है. और जितना भी हुआ है वो है कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन. तो पहला जो हमारा स्टेप्स हैं, जो एग्जाम्पल्स भी है, वो है कि कम्युनिटी को ही कैसे मोबिलाइज करें, क्योंकि कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन से ही जितने भी राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट इंप्लीमेंट हुआ है वो हो पाए। तो कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन को करना है। कम्युनिटी के में हमको एसएमसी, लोकल गवर्नेंस, ये दोनों को हमको साथ में लेने की जरूरत है। एक तो ये बात है, तो कम्युनिटी को मोबिलाइज करना। अभी जो पैंडेमिक दौर में जो अभी भी जो आउट ऑफ स्कूल का आंकड़ा है वो बढ़ गया है, बहुत बच्चे बाहर से, बाकी साथियों ने कहा है। तो मुझे लगता है कि हमारा जो अनुभव रहा है कि इस दौरान अभी पहला स्टेप है कि कम्युनिटी को के पास दोबारा जाना है और ग्रास रूट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इसको कर सकते हैं। और उस पे थ्रू नंबर 2 है, अभी एक समय में फिर से एक बार हमको सर्वे करना है, सर्वे करके देखना है कि कितने बच्चे इस पैंडेमिक में भी स्कूल से बाहर हो रहे हैं। क्योंकि 3 इशू जो लोगों ने उठाया, एक चाइल्ड मैरिज, दूसरा चाइल्ड लेबर, और तीसरा जो है वो है चाइल्ड एब्यूज भी हो रहा है। ये 3 चीजें 1-1.5 साल में जो हो रहा है, जो बच्चों के प्रोटेक्शन को लेके है और बच्चों के स्कूल से बाहर कर रहे हैं। तो इसलिए दूसरा जो इसका काम करना है, तो हमको एक बार इसका दूसरा क्रूशियल स्टेप्स होगा कि सर्वे करना कि पैंडेमिक का कितना असर है और उस पैंडेमिक और ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन से कितने बच्चे दोबारा बाहर हो, ये दूसरा है। तीसरी बात है, सर्वे से हमको, जो सर्वे के साथ हमको हर स्तर पे एक शिक्षा संवाद ऑर्गेनाइज करना है। वो गांव स्तर पे करना है, पंचायत स्तर पे करना है, ब्लॉक स्तर पे करना है, जिला स्तर पे करना है और राज्य स्तर पे करना है। वो जो शिक्षा संवाद होगा, उस शिक्षा संवाद में हर कोई को बुलाना पड़ेगा। उस शिक्षा संवाद में उस लोकल एरिया में पेरेंट्स भी रहेंगे, माने बच्चों के माँ बाप भी रहेंगे, उसके अलावा सरकार के लोग भी रहेंगे, जनप्रतिनिधि लोग रहेंगे। उसमें बताया जाएगा इतना बच्चे अभी स्कूल से नहीं है तो ये आपको करना है। ये मुझे लगता है कि कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन का एक पार्ट है। दूसरा जो पार्ट है बहुत जरूरी जो है, क्योंकि ये दिस इज एक्ट और इसको बच्चों को इसका हक मिलना चाहिए, इसलिए हमको इस एक्ट का इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए। आज के समय बहुत जरूरत है, क्योंकि 12 years ऑलरेडी पास इम्प्लीमेंटिंग द राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट। तो इसीलिए इसको हमको दूसरा हमारा जो होगा कि हम कम्युनिटी के थ्रू हमको पिटिशन दायर करना है। जो माँ बाप, जो बच्चे स्कूल से बाहर है, उनकी माँ बाप के थ्रू हमको पिटिशन दायर करना पड़ेगा। तो इससे क्या होगा कि निश्चित रूप से दबाव होगा। और तीसरा जो क्रूशियल है, ये राइट टू एजुकेशन कानून एक ऐसा कानून है जो बाकी कानून से तो अंतर है। इसकी मॉनिटरिंग करने के लिए एक सेपरेट इंस्टीट्यूशन है, वो एनसीपीसीआर है राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे और राज्य स्तर पे एससीपीसीआर है। तो हमको लगता है कि जो हम सर्वे करेंगे, सर्वे के थ्रू हमको एनसीपीसीआर और एससीपीसीआर के में अपनी रिकमेंडेशन को देना है, क्योंकि उनका काम है कि ये पब्लिक इंस्टीट्यूशन, पब्लिक स्कूल्स कम से कम ठीक से चले, ताकि एक बड़े पैमाने पर जो मार्जिनलाइज, खास करके मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटीज के जो बच्चे स्कूल से बाहर है, वो कम से कम हो सके। ये हमारा तीसरा वो होगा। तो मैं जो बात कह रही हूँ, भारत ज्ञान विज्ञान समिति और हमारे दोस्त लोग यहाँ पर भी है, एक्शन एड भी हम साथ में काम करते, यूनिसेफ इज ऑल्सो हियर। तो हमारा जो काम रहा है, हम इस तरीके से इसका इस्तेमाल करते हुए मुस्लिम बच्चों के लिए जहां पर स्कूल नहीं था, सर्वे के दौरान सरकार में एप्लीकेशन देते हुए वहां स्कूल शुरू किया, दलित बच्चों के लिए भी स्कूल शुरू किया और आदिवासी बच्चों के लिए भी स्कूल शुरू किया। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को हमने डेवलप करने की कोशिश किया। तो ये सब हम आरटी के कानून को इस्तेमाल करते हुए किया। तो मुझे लगता है अभी भी बहुत संभावनाएं हैं। ये संभावनाएं केवल हम लोग नहीं है, बल्कि जब पूरा समुदाय को जोड़ेंगे, जब समुदाय बोलेंगे, निश्चित रूप से ये कानून ठीक से लागू हो पाएगा और बड़े पैमाने पर जो बच्चे स्कूल से बाहर है वो बच्चे स्कूल से हो पाएंगे। तो एक ही नारा हमको लगाना पड़ेगा कि सबको सुरक्षा, सबकी शिक्षा, हर बच्चों की शिक्षा, हर बच्चों की सुरक्षा, ये नारा हमारा लेना, ये समुदाय के थ्रू। और उसके बहुत से हमने अलग अलग तरीके से काम किया, बहुत अच्छा अनुभव है, लेकिन समय कम है। लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि इस तरीके से हम कर सकते हैं।
जी आशा जी, ठीक फरमाया। मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूं कि कोविड-19 के प्रकोप की वजह से ये जो मुहिम है हमारी बच्चों की सुरक्षा और शिक्षा, उसमें क्या क्या दुविधाएं आई हैं और क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आई हैं और उनसे कैसे जूझा जाए?
प्रॉब्लम तो ये आई है जो बातचीत कह रहे हैं, आई है, चूंकि ये कोविड के दौरान जो बच्चों को पूरा मैंने और स्कूल क्लोज हुआ है, स्कूल तो ये क्लोज हुआ है लेकिन इस क्लोजर में इस समय भी और भी बहुत स्कूल क्लोज हुआ है, तो इस क्लोज में बच्चे स्कूल नहीं जा पाने से एक तरीके से बच्चे, बहुत से बच्चे, पूरा मैं भारत भर के अलग अलग राज्यों का और शहरी क्षेत्र का भी अनुभव बता रही हूँ, तो बच्चे स्कूल नहीं जाने से माँ बाप ने बच्चों, क्योंकि आर्थिक स्थिति खराब है तो बच्चों को काम पे लगाया है और बाल मजदूरी बढ़ा है, बच्चों की जल्दी शादी किया जा रहा है, और तीसरी बात है कई जगह का अनुभव है बच्चों के साथ यौन हिंसा हुआ है, क्योंकि घर के अंदर बच्चे थे तो अलग तरीके से उनके साथ हिंसा हो रहा है। तो इसमें जो प्रॉब्लम ये आ रही है कि माँ बाप ये सब चीज करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन जैसे कविता ने बताया एक्शन को थ्रू मोहल्ला स्कूल चला, हम लोग भी घर घर ज्ञान विज्ञान विद्यालय और नेबरहुड लर्निंग सेंटर ये हमने किया है। वो सब मोहल्ले में, गांव में लोगों से बातचीत करते हुए कोई एक घर आइडेंटिफाई किया, वहां पर 10 से 15 बच्चों को, क्योंकि प्रोटोकॉल का भी, कोविड प्रोटोकॉल का ध्यान रखते 10 से 15 बच्चों को एक जगह इकट्ठा करके उनको हम पढ़ाई की नहीं कह रहे, हमने एंगेज किया बच्चों को, क्योंकि पढ़ाई से जितना गैप हो गया है, अब जब भी स्कूल खुलेगा बच्चों का इंटरेस्ट कम हो रहा है, तो कैसे बच्चों को हम इस लर्निंग से हम एंगेज कर सकते हैं, ये काम करने की कोशिश किए हैं। लेकिन स्टिल अभी चूंकि आर्थिक स्थिति बहुत खराब है तो माँ बाप और पूरे पेरेंट्स इसमें थोड़ा मुश्किल, उनको लगता है कि नहीं हमारा बच्चा अगर काम करेंगे थोड़ा हमको काम पैसा ही मिल जाएगा। लेकिन मैं फिर भी कह रही हूँ इस काम को जो ग्रास रूट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से, जो वॉलंटियर्स नीचे काम करते हैं, जो एकेडमिक से, जो शिक्षा को लेकर काम करने वाले इंटेलेक्चुअल से, ये सब मिलके अगर करेंगे निश्चित रूप से, अभी जरूरत है सब मिलके करने के लिए, और मुझे जो अनुभव है उससे निश्चित रूप से यहाँ बच्चों को ठीक से शिक्षा दे पाएंगे और बच्चों का सुरक्षा कर पाएंगे। दोनों के लिए हम कानून का इस्तेमाल ठीक से कर पाएंगे।
जी बिल्कुल। सुदत्ता जी, अगर आप मेरी आवाज सुन पा रहे हैं।
हाँ विनीत, हाय विनीत।
हाय। ActionAid Association, tell us about what they have done to ensure that government schools provide quality education to students.
See, access to good quality education is the right of every child, and that is why, as you have just mentioned, the Right to Education Act 2009 was enacted as objective to furthering this right. So basically, this is a very powerful tool with us, the RT Act, which is so important that every school implements it with letter and spirit. And in actually, we believe that education is a foundation for every child of the marginalized community to attain their full potential. It is an equalizer. With this belief, we have actually promised or committed ourselves to work with the government schools in India. How to strengthen them, how to make these government schools functional. We know the kind of country ours is, the interstate disparities, the religion, the caste boundaries, the development indexes. So with this diversity, it is so important to have schools which are functional, which are good quality education providing schools. So with this commitment, we work with schools. And for us, school is not just a place where we provide education, where they enhance their skills and capacities, but it's also a space where children are protected from child labor, from child marriages, from getting trafficked. So this is a very safe space. And also at the same time, it's a place where they get nutritive meals. They study where it's a hunger-free place. So with this, that is why the school is so important to us. And it is a vehicle in today's world, is a vehicle where we feel it's a vehicle to stop child labor, children entering child labor, stop children entering early marriages, and also stop trafficking. So with this, we have a campaign called the Yes to School campaign. But coming to how we work in a three-pronged strategy, that is with grounded program actions, which my friend Khalid, our friend Ritik Patra, all of them share with Mohalla classes in the COVID times, how they're engaging with getting children back to school. So strong grounded actions at the community level. I will not stress more because colleagues have already stated, our thrust is in community mobilization, engaging the community, letting the community take charge of their schools, of their children's future, helping them do that. So that's the core area and thrust of our work. We engage with PRI members, SMC members, with parents in strengthening these schools. And there are very simple ways to strengthen these schools. How do we let the community monitor the schools? How do we have the SMC function regularly, know their duties regularly? How do we make the schools a safe space where there's no discrimination, where there's a safe and secure space? And overall also engage with the teachers, with the local administration in a very collaborative and supportive manner, where we together build our schools in a way that children of the marginalized communities come, study, grow, and grow for the full potential. Second strategy is about campaigns. We have strongly believed in campaigns. The Yes to School campaign basically is a campaign where we address the issues which plague the education system, like checking on high dropout rates, combating systemic discrimination, ensuring safety and security of children, provide quality learning, ensure there's adequate infrastructure. With us, we have the RT Act, which gives us standards to follow, to monitor, to ensure, to use it as a tool to ensure that schools have all these minimum standards, be it teacher-children ratio, be it a boundary, be it a playground, be it a library which should be available to all children, be it good quality midday meals available, regular books. So all of these, even if these are small steps, but actually when you look at it holistically, affects the school, the function of the school. It provides an overall environment to provide quality learning for these children. And with the Yes to School campaign, we did so well. It was a massive campaign just before COVID. Lakhs of children joined. We had full support of the local administration, the government, where we celebrated these days with the PRI members, with SCPCR chairpersons, with everybody involved in school education, the children, the parents, everyone. But as you said, just the COVID has impacted. Schools are not open now. Children are learning in their homes. Children are in their homes. So where we all, I will not repeat what my friends have shared about the strategies, but we have a Child Connect campaign, which actually we are planning to bring back these children, back to school. We want to do a survey. We want to connect to each child who are in their homes. Are they safe? Are they continuing to learn? Have they gone into child labor, or they're going to child marriages? So Child Connect campaign is all about getting in touch with children. एक संपर्क बनाना बच्चों के साथ जो स्कूल नहीं गए हैं, ताकि वो वापस आ सके स्कूल में. So to get them back to school, to build back better. So these are two major campaigns. And yeah, I mean,
we've almost reached the end of our discussion. I'm going to take quick concluding remarks from Dipali Sharma ji. Dipali ji, what do you think is the child's right agenda that we need to see unfold in India, and what has Action Aid done in this particular regard?
Thank you, Vineet, and happy to be part of this discussion today. And greetings to all the viewers of NewsX who are watching this program. All the speakers have spoken a lot of issues based on their ground experience. And also working in partnership with UNICEF. Patraji is there and Solidad is there. So we've been working together along with several other colleagues representing several state work. So one thing definitely I would like to share is that the context in which we are having this discussion today, which is the context of the pandemic. So many of the long-standing and chronic issues in our country context that we know of, and issues of child marriage, child labor, I mean, have been worsened further. And there is a lot of data to share that. We have had studies done by several organizations, including ILO, UNICEF, as well as our own data because of our work on the ground. On the question of child labor, or whether it is on the question of child marriage, ending child marriage, that we are running across 5 states, and school campaign, large major scale in the state of UP. So basis that we know, I mean, how the pandemic has further aggravated the issues of children, and with the kind of digital divide, with the loss of learning that it has resulted in. I mean, those are the issues which will, whatever the gains we had made over the last decade, I think more renewed efforts will have to be taken up. And most important point is, I mean, while we are talking of universal social protection in the form of education for all, quality education, free education for all, and similarly health and nutrition for all children, and the protection related issues which many of the speakers have spoken about. The important point is, how do we look at the children from the vulnerable communities? I think that is where the crux lies, and in creating special provisions for those children. So children of socially excluded communities, children of stigmatized parents into different kind of work that they are into, for example, manual scavengers or sex workers. Then there are children in difficult circumstances. So the kind of work that we are doing in Kashmir, or for example in Northeast, children of internal dispute communities. So those will need specific attention and focus as part of all the initiatives that we.
All right, Dipali ji, thank you for that. We have run out of time. Soledad, one last concluding comment from you. How would you view the wonderful work that ActionAid has been doing, with all its resources and with all its dedication in terms of, protecting the rights of children? Just, quick answer from you, and then we wrap up.
Thank you, Vinit. I would definitely say that it is only through organizations like ActionAid that materializing the rights of the children will be a reality in India as in any other country. We definitely need strong civil society organizations that work with the grassroots communities that reaches every vulnerable children to make sure that the children's rights are realized. So we are incredibly thankful for all the work that ActionAid has done, and also for the work that has done through other communities and grassroots organizations. And we very much look forward to continue collaborating with ActionAid. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Soledad, for those concluding comments. A number of important issues were discussed today, and I'm sure with avenues and conversations like these, it is going to be, very, very important for the government to make sure that the direction in which child rights and education is going is the right one. Thank you for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.